Well, top of the morning to you, Jeff. Looks like you're again in Freak Speak Studios. I'm over here doing some sipping because I need a little extra charge today.
Oh,
Energy roll.
I did the same thing, man. On filming days, I don't know if you've never somebody out there have ever worked in a studio, filmed. I mean, hot lights, and you just have to be on key. You got to have a little bit of something to get you going.
Go juice. That's right.
Yep,
Yeah.
Carboline Energy,
Caffeinated
baby.
version.
Yep, that's what I had one myself.
What are you filming today?
Today I did some episodes of Ask the Scientist, and I've been doing some special edition on seafood. So, kind of telling the benefits of different seafoods and such.
Cool. Well, we got a few minutes to be live here, so we'll just jump right in. And
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of pick up on what we talked about. It was last week we were talking about quality, but now let's jump or go maybe a little more specific, a little deeper, and talk about protein. It's still the biggest selling ingredient, supplement, whatever you want to call it. You see it everywhere from the Costco's all the way to the mom and pop store on the corner. And something I thought about, we talked about quality. I remember it was 6 years ago, it became a huge controversy when a lot of top name brands were caught spiking their product. And I think it kind of came and had a big hubbub out there, and then it kind of went. And then you were actually quoted as an expert in an article on Forbes, which I'll try to get that address on here because it's still there. I just actually read it a little bit earlier, looking over it again before we were going to talk. Tell us a little more about what that is. And the other question is that still happening today, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, protein spiking really is taking protein and cutting it with something. Now, spiking indicates that you're going to spike the nitrogen. Most conventional testing out there checks for the nitrogen level. So you don't know where that nitrogen comes from. China got caught several years ago, if you remember, spiking their baby powder with melamine. Melamine is a chemical that you put in fertilizer. Again, it's nitrogen. In order for things to grow, you got to put nitrogen back into the soil. Well, they were cutting the product by putting this melamine to spike the nitrogen level in their product, basically giving less protein. And that kind of carried through. People who have, a high school chemistry degree know that by adding some cheap amino acid like glycine to your protein, if you run a traditional Kydel testing method where you're checking for just some nitrogen level, it's going to look like, oh, here's the proper amount of nitrogen, do the calculations, that equivalates to this amount of protein, meets label claim. But what that means is we're looking for, 24 grams of protein. And if we buy something that only has 10 grams of protein and we're getting 14 grams of glycine, I'm sorry, folks, that's not protein. It's not going to do the same thing. Now, that's not to say if you were to take glycine as a supplement, does it have benefits? Yeah, it has benefits, but it's not protein. It's not going to build muscle, has nothing to do with the essential, non-essential amino acid combination, which is why we eat protein.
Well, the point there being, it's not whether glycine's a good or bad thing. It's you're paying for X amount of protein and you're getting cheated.
Yep. You're getting cheated.
But it's a way to increase the margin.
Yeah. And that's one thing that went on. The other thing that has gone on for, as long as I've been in the business, and I've caught as many brands as, the class action people and the government have caught, and I just call it cutting. They kind of group this all into spiking. Right. But cutting is when you take maltodextrin, which is a carbohydrate, and you basically mix it in.
And so it's cheap.
It's cheap. It's less than $1 a kilo. So when you scoop out, I'm still getting a full scoop, but instead of 24 grams of protein, you got 10 grams, but you've got 12 or 13 grams of carbs that you weren't counting on. I can't tell you over the years how many bodybuilders, fitness gals would say, man, I'm not using whey proteins anymore for contest prep because I gain weight when I get on it. Well, that's because you're buying the cheap junk from the wholesale clubs and, the superstores. I'm not going to mention any, specific store names, but you guys know what I'm talking about. If it's cheap, it's cheap.
Yeah. And so I guess the next question is, How prevalent do you think that is? This was 6 years ago when it all exploded.
Yep.
The article was written. There was tons of class action lawsuits over it.
Yep.
I wonder how prevalent something like that could still be today.
So here's what has happened. I mean, I've been doing whey protein since the very beginning of the protein era back in the, I don't know, mid 90s or
90s,
whenever.
yeah.
Whenever the protein cost goes up, spiking and cutting happens. So after that thing 6 years ago, protein costs started to come down because there was an abundant supply where it was back to basically normal pricing. So nobody needed to cut anymore because it was affordable. Now, China is buying all our protein in the country. Price goes up, supply and demand, shortage, the same old things I've heard for years and years and years. But one of the things I've noticed is whenever gas prices go up, protein prices go up, and we're told there's a shortage. So now protein has tripled in cost. So guess what's going to happen? You're going to see spiking. You're going to see cutting again. So again, if you are buying a brand off of Amazon or one of these, mass wholesale clubs or superstores, and their protein is cheap, you might as well go suck on some rocks or eat some cardboard because, I mean, again, it's garbage, junk.
So we're talking about the base raw material. Let's say, I'm just picking up a number. It was $8. You're saying now that same amount is $24 or somewhere.
It literally is tripled. Whey protein isolate has tripled. Concentrate has doubled. Now it's coming close to triple the cost. I mean, again, it's ridiculous. It's nothing that hasn't happened over the years. Somebody the other day said, heard me talking about this and said, well, how come EFX hasn't raised their prices? Does that mean you guys are cheating? No, because we're smart. We project ahead. I knew this was going to come. I have been saying it. Anytime you have a changeover in government like what we had, now China is running rampant, doing all their same gains they did 5 years ago or 12, 13 years ago when the Obama administration came in. We've seen the same thing.
Right.
So we pre-bought. We bought at a good price. So we have enough inventory for probably 6, 7, 8 months. I hope that by then we're going to have some stabilizations. If not, well, we'll have to reevaluate where the cost is. But if I were to buy it right now, we would have to raise prices about $5 or $6 a bottle just to be at the same small margin that we're at right now. If we sold at the same price, we would lose money.
Yeah. So the bottom line is you really have two choices as a brand that you either try and convince the public to pay $60 for something they once paid $20.
Right.
Or, like I said, you cut the product and try to convince them it's still the same thing to make the same amount of money.
And some people might go, well, aren't other people like you? They bought at a good price. No, they're stupid. They don't. I'm sorry.
Really feel? Don't hold back.
They don't think that far ahead. A contract manufacturer is different than a company like us who's a contract manufacturer, but we also own our own brands. So we have to look out for brands and customers. They don't care. They're going to make their same margins, take it or leave it. And again, if you need protein, then you're going to buy it, or you're going to talk that manufacturer into cutting your product. I can't tell you 6, 7 years ago when that whole spiking thing was going on, how many people started asking us to add 10 grams, 15 grams of glycine, maltodextrin. I got no problem with doing a blend as long as it's on the label. You had maltodextrin, you got a nice meal replacement, but they were trying to get us to cheat and not put it on the label.
Put it on the label, right?
Nah, take a hike, buddy. Not only am I going to turn you into the FDA, but, I'm going to tell everybody you're cheating. And, we expose these brands. I mean, through our media outlets, we expose them. Hey, you cheat. It's our responsibility to police our own industry. That's one of the things FDA said a long time ago, that if we policed our own industry, then we would run the cheaters out of town. But unfortunately, consumers continue to buy the products that people cheated on, thinking they're going to change. No, they haven't changed.
Well, and now, so much of this is just out of the limelight. It's not really talked about. Doesn't mean it's not happening. There's all kinds of things like that are not the flavor of the month, so to speak, as far as a topic goes or social media. So, of course, guys like us like to bring it back up, but I think it's important that people understand and know.
Well,
this is legit.
And I'm telling you, you heard it here first. Creatine, be aware. Again, China, there's a creatine shortage. You know, it's all this game that happens. And again, this is with our government changeover, not trying to get political. This is fact. Been doing this for a long time, have seen a lot of administrations come through. And whenever somebody is on China's side, they allow this to happen. So whether it's plastic, resin, concrete shortage, ketchup, I mean, all these different shortages all comes from China. And what you're going to see is people are desperate right now. They're going to be cutting what little bit of creatine they can get, because there's not only a very small amount coming in to none, it has literally doubled to tripled in price. And again, creatine is a commodity. So you're not going to go out there and pay, you know, $90 a bottle like you did when we first introduced it, you know, 30 years ago.
Right.
It's a cheap product. So people are going to try to continue with that price, or they're going to have to discontinue it because they can't get enough for the supply and demand just of their own brand. So if you're a legit company, discontinue it. Don't cheat people. Don't try to think you're going to lose money, because in the long run, I'm going to test your product and I'm going to expose you.
Well, good. Someone's got to do it right.
So,
Well, and the other thing you mentioned, like it's a changeover in the people at the wheel. And when they took their foot off the brake suddenly and these policies changed, people like China or wherever are going to take advantage of it. And we see it right now. And some of the stuff, we talk about it, but you won't see the effects of it for another few months. Although we, on our side of it, see it way upstream, because we're seeing the pricing now that once that product hits the market, people are wondering what happened. Well, we're telling them right now.
It is, you know, and again, you know, this isn't political. This is facts. I mean, we're in China. We have one of the major Fortune 500 companies who distributes EFX in China. So I know what's going on there. I mean,
from the ground floor. Yeah, from the ground.
I'm right there. I've known them for years. They've become friends. So I know everything that's going on. And again, I've been doing this long enough where whether you like the Trump administration, you don't like the Trump administration, I don't care. I only know what that administration did to equal the playing field for importing and exporting. If you're in business and you import or export, then you've seen the difference. We've seen it when the Obama administration came in. Our relationship with China went in the toilet. It took me 5 years pending to get approved to sell baby formula into China.
Right.
Again, the Obama administration irritated Mrs. Obama, you know, ticked off the Chinese people, didn't show up to their meeting and all that stuff. And, you know, it was put on hold. Trump administration got in. We were approved in 3 months. So again, I'm not supporting any one candidate. I'm just showing you what's happening. So as soon as the new Biden administration came in, literally overnight, here goes the same China games. So again, you know, whether you want to believe it or not, it's fact. You know, this is why we have all these shortages. PVC pipe, concrete. You wonder, why is there a concrete shortage? Well, because one of the chemicals that make concrete comes from China. Shortage. I'm sure there's going to be a toaster shortage. All these things out of China. You watch, it's just to drive the price up and to put out then all the manufacturing that came back to America.
Right. That's right. Well, again, we're not here to bash China or country or, like you said, administration. We're just reporting the facts out to the public from the inside, because we're privy to this information and do this literally day in, day out, and see the effects of different decisions, policies, etc. But you said, go ahead.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, you know, again, you know, when I say China, I don't mean, you know, Chinese people no more than when I say, you know, there's bad companies in the USA. That means government. Everybody. We're just talking about government, and, you know, that's the generality. It was like saying the COVID came from China. Well, it didn't mean the Chinese people did it. It's just that's where it originated from. So, you know, again, some of my best friends are, you know, from China, live in China, and we do a lot of business there. But again, you know, facts are facts. And we're just trying to educate with this show. Be aware, you know, there's going to be cheating. It happens time and time again. It's not going to change.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Hey, they're God's children too. Children too. So on that note, I just wanted to switch gears slightly. You mentioned about the creatine. Another article, which I'll figure a way to flash it up here or put it in the notes or something like that, or the copy above when this is all there. What was that about? That there was an article you were quoted in. That was literally yesterday, a NutriGradient.
Yeah, it was. I mean, a lot of people, come to me as an expert or to do interviews, and I do them all. I mean, I don't charge. I just like to give information. I was taught a long time ago, when you're blessed and you gain a lot of knowledge, one of the good things about as we age, we become wiser and we learn a lot. I like to give
like to think so.
So I responded right away to their questions, and again, was very upfront. Nothing was opinionated. It was all fact. And the author came back, or the editor came back and said, "Man, thanks so much. Even Allschems wouldn't respond." Allschems is the manufacturer of Creapure. Well, they want to respond because they know all their stuff is either half made in China or comes from China, where Crealkaline is the only USA-made creatine anymore. And this author was he didn't realize that there was no creatine made here. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me yesterday in an interview, well, aren't the USA manufacturers going to ramp up their creatine production? I said, there is none.
Who are they?
We are the only one that's producing any form of creatine, which is Crealkaline. And by the way, there is no shortage because, again, we knew this was coming. We secured raw materials a couple years ago. So, we're sitting good. Are we now going to be picky who gets it? Absolutely. We're not bringing on any new manufacturers. We're making sure that our brands, EFX Sports, and our customers, have an ample source. Anybody new who hasn't been on board, we're probably not going to have any available for you because, again, we need to take care of our own. And everybody had chances to come up the last 20 years on with Crealkaline. And the only reason why you want to get it now is because you can't get creatine. So if I have extra, again, it'll be available, but probably not.
So to bring this full circle, we talked about the protein and spiking, the potential now, which looks like it very probable that with creatine shortage and increase in raw material, the same sort of thing could happen there. So in other words, if you start taking something and wonder why all of a sudden this didn't work and it's your favorite brand and you've been using it, what changed? We're telling you right now, that's what could happen. So beware. And then, by the way, just speaking of protein, I just thought of our sister company, All American Body. We're getting ready to do a big protein promotion coming up. Just stay tuned the next few days or weeks, where you talk about the price going up. You're not going to believe, because we have such ample supply and knew this was coming and pre-built a bunch of different products. Stay tuned for that promo.
Yeah, it's literally it's less than cost because of the promo. But again, we pre-planned this a couple years ago when the costs were down. So it's going to be fun. One of the other things I wanted to touch on, because again, these are questions that always come up, and I'm sure they're going to come up after this as well. How are you experts, or how can you even test if something is spiked? Well, I think I took some pictures just last week of some instruments in our quality control lab. Our quality control lab is real, like we discussed. It's not fake. It's not photoshopped in. But we have a big machine that is fully automatic that does all of the protein analyzing. Now, it is based on nitrogen. So, it's a little more high tech than the old Kydell method. It's a lot quicker, a lot more accurate. But this is where near infrared testing comes in. Now, I brought that to our industry. Brandon Luby, who was the first brand to really get into the pharmaceutical and the drug industry, label me as the father of near infrared, because I had done so much research. All of their PCs came with my research, kind of like when Windows first came. But that instrument, not only can I find a needle in a haystack, but I can tell you if something's real, something's been added in. So that's how we not only check our raw materials, but we check for anybody's products out there. We get a lot of people who send their product in and go, hey, tell me if my manufacturer's cheating on me, or, hey, this brand is cheap. Can you test it for me? And if it's spiked, or if it's cut, or if it's adulterated, I'm going to find it. There's no hidden ways anymore. We have such great advancement in analytical testing these days. And if you know what you're doing, you have the right equipment, you have the right chemists, the right scientists, it's crazy the way it works.
Well, and I know that machine, we're talking about the near infrared, that thing is so sensitive. I mean, it's literally looking at molecules. I mean, parts per million, per billion. I mean, it's like so incredibly sensitive. It's almost, it's like Star Trek type thing.
It is, and when I first became aware of it, that was one of the things that His name was Dr. Arnold Aller. He was kind of my mentor. He was the one that trained me. And he said, even to this day, it's like something out of Star Trek that you can put something in and basically get a full analysis in less than 15 seconds. I mean, it still amazes me the way that it works.
Yeah.
And we have 4 of them here. Not only do we use them in quality control, but we use them in research and development when we're reverse engineering or we're putting products together. We'll need some near infrared testing. And we've had government contracts. We did a grant contract with the USDA. No one in the world could come up with a testing method for a vaccine they were working on, and they hired me to do their protocol because they knew that from what they read on the published work on near infrared. And so I mean, we've done a lot of work over the years for different government agencies and customers and such.
So you say you have 4 of them. Is that something you just went down to Best Buy, I guess, and bought on sale?
When I first was introduced to this, I was used to buying a computer, you plug it in, you're ready to go. You load the program, and back then it was WordPerfect or Word was around, and you're ready to go. Or you buy a video game, you plug it in, plug and play. No, I mean, it took me over 6 months of research and building these libraries to actually even be able to put it online. So this equipment is very, very, first of all, you need to be trained not only in how to run it, but how to build the methods, validate it so that it's flawless. It's a lot of work, and you have to be educated. You have to have a background in chemistry, and have had some high-end training, which is why again we have 6 chemists. We have another PhD besides myself on staff. It's a lot of work, and that's why people don't have it, because chemists are expensive and the equipment's expensive. I mean, go out today and try to buy a near infrared machine. They're $150,000 to $200,000. I mean, they're not cheap, and that's just the machine that has nothing on it. You plug it in, all that happens is the lights come on. You can't test anything with it.
You mean you don't have the libraries of the signatures for each ingredient?
No, you got to build those. I mean, you got to build the libraries first. You have to build a method that's going to work. And then validation means that it's repeatability. I need to be able to repeat this over and over again and get the same results. If you can't get repeatability, then that method is no good. You have to start over. So sometimes it takes weeks, months to build a method for, one of these analytical machines before you can validate. Because we are inspected not only by FDA, USDA, third-party auditors, they always look at our method development, our validation protocol. And if we didn't have that spot on, we'd be cited and put out of business, because that's the same as just guessing or doing no testing at all.
Yeah. Well, and I remember seeing, I know that the images that it produces are called spectra.
Yep.
And it's cool to see, like, I remember we did maybe 10 plus years ago, I'll have to find them, spectra of, say, our standard creatine monohydrate, and the curve it looked like.
Yeah.
And we were putting like CEE and all these other wacky compounds that people were trying to pass off as a new creatine against it, and it wouldn't even come close. You could just literally see the difference. And I know you could also go into I think it was a 3D mode with and you could see all the axes and see how things would place, but the stuff that wasn't legit creatine or whatever would be like way out over here, and it was just the wildest thing to see. That it's literally like checking a murder scene and matching blood samples against each other to see, oh yep, that's a DNA match. That's how
I could tell you what manufacturer they came from. If somebody sends in one lot or one lot and they try to say it's all one lot, we can show that it's different lots. Right. I mean, again, you're down to the molecule. You're looking at the full chemical makeup. And again, a lot of times, even educated people go, oh, that's just infrared testing. No, infrared is not near infrared, and it's not mid-infrared. There are a lot of spectroscopy as this science, all the way up to X-ray. So depending on the strength of this beam, depends on the penetration. X-ray is spectroscopy. It goes right through you so that you get a full look at everything. Near infrared, we only want to absorb a certain amount, because dietary supplements, the best absorption is in that near region. Mid is a little bit too light. Infrared is a lot stronger. It's okay for, just identifying compounds, not all compounds, but it's not good for doing any quantification. And then UV vis is kind of what you visually can see. So again, there is a place for those things, but near infrared is the perfect method for, or the perfect testing method for, our dietary supplement realm. Can test everything from protein to minerals to vitamins to creatine, you name it. We also developed methods for testing liquids, which for the most part, near infrared has a tough job with that. But I came up with some different ways of doing it. And again, pretty daggone cool.
Yeah. Well, and probably should go ahead and shut this down here in just a minute. But I just remembered when you're talking about testing and finding this stuff, I'm not going to name the brand. I think if anybody did a little research, they'd know who I'm talking about. But there was a product that came out. There was a pre-workout that went like overnight, became a sensation in the industry. I mean, like, people had never seen anything like it. They were taking a dose, and sometimes it would keep them up for 2 and 3 days. And people were like, well, it's just caffeine and what's in this thing? And I remember you and your team investigated and ended up turning this information. Wasn't the Department of Justice? There were 2 designer methamphetamines they were lacing this product with that they didn't think would ever be detected or they could get caught. And you guys actually found it.
And they got busted. And, we were the ones, I was the one that found out years ago that ephedra was being spiked.
Oh, yeah.
And again, everybody, loved Mahung, but if it wasn't for those cheaters, Mahung would still be available today, no issues. But when you spike it with the drug pseudoephedrine, ephedrine HCl, you're going to have problems. And that's really the big issue is if somebody wants to take a drug, you get a prescription, you're monitored by a doctor, he's make sure it's safe. You don't want to have it hidden in your dietary supplement because not only is it unsafe, but if you're taking another drug, you could have some reaction. And, there were people that had heart attacks taking Mahung, and I kept catching every which way that China was spiking this, and they found out. I was threatened, saying this is how things were done. We're going to kill you. I kept turning it into the FDA. Now, did I help contribute getting it banned? Probably. But you know what? It's better to have, again, a healthy product out there than letting it continue the way it was going, because more and more people were going to get sick and probably die.
Yeah. Well, I'll drink to that.
There you go, man. At least you know what's in that bad boy.
Yeah, I know for sure. I know that one's definitely pure and clean.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been good stuff. I know we've thrown a lot at everybody on this live, but hopefully you gain something from it. Give us some feedback. If you agree, disagree, you have other questions, other topics you think we might want to cover. We're just here to educate. And like Jeff said, we've got a lot of experience, been doing this for many, many years. He's into the decade realm. Many decades. Hey, if we can share and give back at this point, this is what we want to do.
Yep. And we answer all the questions, good, bad, or indifferent. So
there you go.
There you go.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Well, thanks for tuning in. And Jeff, I'll let you go ahead. I know you got to suit up and get back to the lab, probably grab somebody on the way in, and we'll just pick